After a very busy summer, I'm trying to get caught up a little bit with everyone and get back to commenting on everybody else's videos and things. And I really do enjoy reading them. I've been reading them, but not commenting as much as possible, but hopefully I will be able to recommence that here shortly. During the summer, I was very busy, and that has continued through the fall and into November now. I did manage to read 9 books during the summer, and I'm just going to try to do a very quick review of all of them and get caught back up and get started on. I do actually have a little list of stories that I would like to cover. Actually, it's quite long. There's about 100 and some of them. So I will begin with what I read first this summer. And this was back in June. And Jack Vance, this is the Spatterlight Press edition. And I ordered it back in June. And they popped right up and printed it out for me June 25th, 2025. Hopefully that will be legible there on the screen. But at any rate, this was a great book. I enjoyed it immensely. I read it probably back around 1969 the first time. And I found the book really interesting, and it got my attention very quickly. And the first 40 or 50 pages I found really good. I think he could have ended the book roughly 30 pages before he did. There's a foreword here by Michael Moorcock, and here's the beginning of it here. And I'm not sure that Michael really liked the book. He does discuss its importance. And he does seem to think the book goes on a little long, which I agree. Now, I do have my original copy of Big Planet from back in the 1950s. And this copy went through the 10 weeks up in the 90-degree heat in the attic. I'm assuming the attic probably reached 140, 150 degrees there. And this is an ace double from the mid-1950s. And man, did that clean it up. I'm very pleased with the results of that. Now, there are some books and short stories that I think you might want to read after reading Big Planet. And the first one, and this story has been anthologized a lot. I have it very easy to reach here in The Path Through Tomorrow by Robert Heinlein, is Coventry by Robert A. Heinlein. And it discusses virtually the same topics that are discussed in Big Planet. And that is what to do with the misfits, the anarchists, the criminals, the people who don't want to conform to a sort of Western civilization style law and order. And here is Coventry by Heinlein, which does really take on all of the same topics as Big Planet. Now, it's a very different story, and I think you may enjoy reading it quite a bit. I'm sure it's available online. And the main character, David McKinnon, ends up in Coventry because he gets in a fist fight, and that is considered unacceptable behavior in the future United States that Heinlein envisions. Another book that I think you might like to read along with Big Planet is The Status Civilization by Robert Sheckley. And this is a great book. And again, it confronts all these same issues. And Sheckley creates a character that you can definitely identify with, just like you can in Big Planet and Coventry, David McKinnon and Fader McGee, all these people you will get to know. And in The Status Civilization, Sheckley's imagination runs wild. And I can't recommend this one enough either. One more that you might want to think about after reading Big Planet that is, again, the same concept. A planet is set aside for people who want to be free spirits or whatever you want to call it, and that is Donald E. Westlake's Anarchaos. Now, Stephen, the Outlaw Bookseller, had a topic very similar, much longer video on discussing all of these books as well. I would really recommend Westlake's Anarchaos. He actually includes a little education on philosophy in here, and he discusses it not in great detail, but he discusses about 10 or so philosophers and how you might take a look at that. And this book, again, is a really kind of a comparison and contrast. The main character is more or less an anarchist, largely a criminal, and he's lived his whole life that way. He and his brother, if you want to look at it as Taoist or something, which I do not look at this book that way at all, are yin and yang. His brother has a very straightforward moral code and always has retained his teachings as a youngster. The main character does not. But his brother ends up on Anarchaos and has disappeared. So he shows up looking for him. Now, Westlake is well known for his Parker mysteries, and if you watch the Mel Gibson Payback movie, you'll get a feel for the atmosphere of this book. So that's going to be my long-winded analysis for today. This summer, I also watched this fabulous movie from Hammer Horror. And if it hadn't been for 2001 coming out just a year or so later, I think this movie would have been wildly popular. I could be wrong, but if you get a chance to watch 5 Million Years to Earth, in the UK, I believe it was called Professor Quatermass in the Pit. Let me get this turned around. Well, I can't do it, so I'll just tear it right out of there. So it's Quatermass in the Pit in the UK. Really a wild story, really great fun. Telepathy, telekinesis, genetic engineering. I mean, it's got everything. So next, what I read was a reread again of this great book, which I found at a bookstore and opened my wallet and passed out, but I bought the book, and it has been great, and I reread it, and it is James H. Schmidt's The Witches of Cares, or Caries, however you want to pronounce it, written in 1966. And I thought this book was robbed of a Hugo or Nebula, or they should have just created an award for it. I don't know what they should have done. There was a lot of competition that year, but this book deserved recognition. It's about a young man named Captain Pausert, who I'm guessing is around 25, 26 years old. And he is having trouble establishing himself as an entrepreneur, and his girlfriend's dad finances a starship for him to try basically, essentially, being a space trucker, and the girlfriend is really expecting him to excel and make a lot of money. Her father is fabulously wealthy, and Captain Pausert ends up on a planet and discovers that a young girl has been sold into slavery. I'm talking somebody like 10 years old. Well, this, of course, offends his sensibilities, and he buys her. And he notices while he's trying to buy her and set her free that the man and wife who own her are quite willing to negotiate a price. And so he takes off with this one, and she's saying, well, I have 2 sisters on the planet. We were captured and they're all enslaved. And he goes around and purchases the other 2, and of course with the intent on returning them to their home. And boy, the owners are just wildly happy to be rid of them. So that begins the story, and it really takes off from there. There's a lot of humor. There's a lot of adventure. And Schmitz builds several worlds and several civilizations. He can really draw his characters, and they are a little bit humorous. There is no trouble with suspension of disbelief. You get drawn into the story. You like the characters, and they end up in an intergalactic battle with a very evil set of aliens who actually come from another galaxy, and they are really alien, and the adventures are great. And when the story ends, you feel a little sense of loss, like, where did they go? So where they went was, oh my goodness, 40 years later or so, Baen Books tried to have a sequel written, and this is Mercedes Lackey, Eric Flint, and Dave Freer. And this is The Wizard of Karas, which continues the story, and they do a reasonably good job. No complaints, but, it's hard to compete with the original book. Next, I read The Spaceway from February 1955, which one of the other guys had on one of his book hauls. And I jumped right on this because right at the bottom it says, A.E. Van Vogt on Dianetics. And sure enough, the editors of the book have an interview with A.E. Van Vogt discussing Dianetics. And I will read just a little bit of that. Van Vogt explains what he was trying to do and what he was always trying to do in his stories. Question is what Dianetics is. And I'll just read a bit of what Van Vogt says. A basic theory of Dianetics is that it is possible for an individual to free himself from the effect of the shock experiences and the self-negation of a lifetime. Pretty standard stuff. And here he goes on to say, virtually all problems are problems of philosophy. Change a man's philosophy and you change his goals and the kind of illness or aberration he is subject to. This we have seen adequately proved in Dianetics. Theoretically, if you change a person's philosophy sufficiently, this has been demonstrated that this can be so, but not enough time has elapsed on any Dianetic case to conclusively prove it. So essentially, what Van Vogt, and again he broke off from Hubbard, was trying to do was to help people lead better lives and be better people. And you can see that in nearly all of his fiction as well. I forgot this. In this same issue here is a review of This Island Earth as the movie came out by Forrest J. Ackerman. And it's a great review. Of course, I have This Island Earth, and I just watched it again, probably not more than 2 months ago. And I did a little review on it. So at any rate, we'll move on to the next one. I haven't discussed any of my nonfiction that I read, but I have always liked this book. It's been out for about 20 years now. And this is Box Like the Pros, Smokin' Joe Frazier. I started following Joe Frazier's career in 1966 or so when I was 12. And Joe Frazier has some great advice in this book. And it's mostly about boxing, but he also has a couple of posters that he had in his gym. And there they are. And he says, who's the best? We're the best. Who's the best team? We're the best team. Why are we the best? Because we work hard. And why do we work hard? Because we're disciplined. He goes on through all of this. He was trying to teach young people how to survive in life. And here are his 10 power punches for life. Number 1 is education is power. Let's see, here's another one. Power punch number 4, faithfulness between teacher and student. Number 5, winners never quit and quitters never win. Number 6, give respect to your elders. Number 7, faithfulness and cooperation between brothers and sisters. Faithfulness between friends is number 8. Number 9 is get the job done. So, great stuff there by Joe, and he was trying to reach his younger audience there, which I'm sure boxing is for a younger audience. Here is a anthology that I had heard of, and it's a recent banned books anthology, Dancing with Destruction. And I believe it was published in 2025. Yes, first printing July 2025. And I'd heard good things about it from other people and in my readings. So I bought it. And here it is. And sure enough, there were some good stories in here. The introduction kind of gives the idea. It's mostly military SF. But I will have to say, the first 2 stories are very good. Great short science fiction. All the Little Stars in the Sky, David Weber and Marissa Wolf. Old and Broken Gods by Blaine L. Pardo. The rest of the stories are straightforward military, almost alien SF. And they contain a lot of magic words that are inappropriate for what should have been the audience for this book, young adults. So they probably limited themselves in their sales by including all of that. But there are 2 stories in here that are definitely very good. Next is the 4th Galaxy Reader, Horace Gold. And there's nothing in here that would prevent anyone from reading this book. And the short stories in here are fabulous. There are some of the funniest and most sarcastic science fiction I've ever read, and I've had this book probably since 1972. And I'll just give a couple of examples here of what is so hilarious in this book. I Am a Nucleus by Stephen Barr, Name Your Symptom by Jim Harmon, Horror House, Margaret St. Clair, The Bomb in the Bathtub, Thomas N. Scorsia, You Were Right, Joe, J.T. McIntosh, and What's He Doing in There by Fritz Leiber. I can't help but laugh. This short story is great. If you have never read it before, I would really recommend it. This is great stuff, and very enjoyable. And I think you will get a charge out of the whole book. And not all of them are funny. Some of them are. Oh my goodness! I'd forgotten one. Blank Form by Arthur Sellings is one of the most innovative science fiction short stories I have ever read. And Blank Form, I don't think anybody really knows much about it these days, by Arthur Sellings, has a concept in there I had never heard of before, and certainly had not considered. It is a great short story. This is the problem with going through so many reviews. The next is the Mammoth Book of Comic Fantasy 2, edited by Mike Ashley. Now this is an older book. I think it was around 2002, 1999. And they're not kidding. This book is funny. This book is hilarious. There's so many short stories in here that are just hilarious. And I think it would be, you wouldn't be wasting your money buying the book. I will only I'll read a few of this, which really isn't a story. It's more of a list. Some wise advice. The top 50 things I'd do if ever I became an evil warlord by Peter Anspach. And I'll just read off a couple of those. And that's on page 244. I think my bookmark fell out. And here it is. And I'll just read off a couple. You'll see what I'm talking about. How many James Bond movies have you seen? My legions of terror will have helmets with clear plexiglass visors, not face-concealing ones. Dr. No. My ventilation ducts will be too small to crawl through. The artifact, which is the source of my power, will not be kept on the mountain of despair beyond the river of fire, guarded by the dragons of eternity. It will be in my safe deposit box. There's just so many here. It's just amazingly great. And, I mean, he's got 50 of them. But again, great book. Certainly worth looking up. And you'll spend a lot of time laughing. And this is the last one for me today. The World Turned Upside Down. David Drake, Eric Flint, and Jim Bain. Now, these guys, back about 20 years ago, I guess, decided they were going to try to recreate something along the lines of Adventures in Time and Space. And I feel they're pretty successful at it here. I enjoyed this book immensely, and I enjoyed the short stories. And I'll try to hold it up here so you can see the list of them. Actually, I'm going to hold up the back of the book, which has a probably more legible list. And that is a list of fabulous science fiction. I'll hold it up here for a little while in case anyone wants to see all of them. You could just pause the video and read them. Hopefully that has focused properly. At any rate, that's what I have for today. And now that represents about 10 weeks of my science fiction, but I'm ready to move on to new stuff now, which isn't new. It's going to be all old as the hills, and I'm going to do some comparison and contrast of short stories. 90% of science fiction was short stories up until the late 60s, 1970s. So there's some really important short stories. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.